I went and traveled to different dimensions. I definitely went through, I guess, what I now seem to understand and know as the dark night of the soul. I was battling Satan. I went through spiritual warfare.
Today's guest is Eric Taylor, a professional intuitive astrologer and relationship coach hailing from the vibrant city of New York. Beyond his expertise in astrology, Eric wears many hats, including actor, writer, MC, sports radio host, and former teacher for disabled children in the Bronx. Since relocating to Arizona in 2011, he has dedicated himself to elevating the collective through his diverse pursuits. In 2021, Eric faced a life-altering NDE. He battled and survived COVID, spending 40 days in a coma and enduring an 85-day hospital stay. During this time, he tragically lost his mother. This near-death encounter served as a catalyst for the expansion of his spiritual gifts and abilities. A dedicated husband and father of 4 sons, Eric is driven by a higher purpose, embodying resilience and a profound commitment to making a positive impact on the world. I love that. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you so much for having me. Wow. When you read that, it gave me chills.
It's powerful.
I was like, who is she talking about? I want to meet this guy.
I do too, which is exactly why I found you and was like, Courtney, help me get this guy on. So before we get started, I just want to say to those listening or watching, please hit the like button, the subscribe button, share if you will, if these messages speak to you, because I imagine they will speak to so many people and you're really doing a service not only for the channel, but for the collective per Eric's mission. So as we get started, a good starting place is what led to the NDE and share what you experienced as well as what you learned.
Wow. Well, left New York City, which I never thought I would do. After I got married in '08, we moved to Arizona, my wife and 2 of my sons, in 2011. I was coming off of surgery on my right ankle. I had fallen on black ice in New York City in the winter and broke my ankle. I crawled to work to get to my kids and to keep my health insurance for the family the last 2 days of the school year. And, came to Arizona adjusting and feeling renewed and refreshed and much less stress, definitely. But I had to have a second procedure. So my immune system was a little weaker. Fast forward to 2013 before we brought in our twin boys. Daddy wanted a little girl, and God blessed us. And we went from trying to 2 to 3 to 2 to 4, which I always tell the people is the conversation's 2 to 3. 2 to 4 was a state of shock. But I love my twins who are now 10 years old. But 2013, I got valley fever. It's a fungus that comes up from under the ground in the soil, and it's in the western region of the United States of America, Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, Washington, dry parts of California, Utah.
Oh, so not just Southwest.
Oh yeah, and so it was so innocent. I was opening the front door looking for the cable guy, and a gust of wind. It was one of those cloudy, puffy yellow cloud days, and a gust of wind came into my mouth and nose like Ghostbusters, and I was like, oh my gosh! I was like, babe, I think I'm gonna be sick. This was like such a violation, and needless to say, the next day I wound up in the ER. Yada yada. Oh, Mr. Taylor, it's just stress and anxiety. I'm like, no, I'm not stressed. Like something like invaded me. And come to find out after doing research that 63 or 65% of the cases, looking at the Mayo Clinic's website for valley fever, go miss or undiagnosed. And of course, I don't do anything, Kristin, the easy way. I guess I embrace the challenges and the difficult path in life, or at least I used to. That's no longer my path. It went to my head and neck, and it usually shows up in your lungs. And so the way they test it is they check your lungs. They'll see like a mark or a nodule, and they know, and they give you the diflucanazole, which is the antibiotics, I guess, or medicine for valley fever. That didn't happen to me. Western medicine failed me, said nothing was wrong with me. And what happened was each day I was producing mucus as if I had the flu. And it was filling up the lymphatic system. So just to give you a little insight, when I got married, I'm 5'11", I was about 187. After my surgeries, put on a couple of pounds, but was still in pretty decent health. I went up to maybe 193, 195 at the most. At my sickest, maybe 2014, 2015, I was 5'11", 240 pounds, mostly mucus.
All in your lymphatics.
Yeah, it was flooding, and it went, and
You're
then
drowning.
I found out years later with people who, with melanin, the valley fever travels. I had surgery on my left wrist, carpal tunnel. My arches collapsed in both of my feet. I had two surgeries on each foot. I went through the ringer. I mean, I was in such pain. I could not physically go to a 9-to-5 job to work. So I was doing my sports radio show, trying to help my wife with the newborn twins, all this stuff. I finally get to a naturopathic doctor, lost a lot of my savings, garlic IVs twice a week at $187 a pop, all this medicine. They use the electromagnetic dermal screening that I guess it's popular in England and Germany, and that's how they figured out that I had, I think, maybe a pinch of Lyme, if I remember correctly, but I had the valley fever. And then I got diflucanazole. I also put leeches, $40 a leech, on my head, shaved off all my hair, and had leeches going up and down,
Oh my God, that sounds
draining.
so archaic.
Well, actually, it's God's first medicine, if you think about it, the leeches,
Yeah.
right? Because what they do is they dig in and they kind of put in this medicine called the harrowing, and then they suck out all the toxins, and you secrete fluid and blood for about 20 hours. I remember at the time, my son, who's now 24, he was 14, 15, he didn't want to go to bed. He sees me bleeding forever. He's like, Dad, are you going to be
Yeah.
okay?
That's
And I said, buddy,
terrifying.
yeah, no. And I told him, I said, buddy, Dad's going to be all right. You can go to bed. But, I went through all that, finally got better, never 100%, because they would not give me Western medicine, the diflucanazole, like a consistent prescription to really get it out. So COVID comes 2020. We actually got it early when they said it wasn't really here yet. We
I did
did
too.
get it in January.
I did too.
You did? Okay. So And
I was
so,
like, am I the first case?
yeah, I know, right? So when I
Patient
got
zero?
basically, and when I got it, it went through the whole house. One of my sons did not get it, but everybody got it. But it didn't affect the kids that bad at all. Now, meanwhile, I taught in the Bronx with multiply severely disabled children for 10 years and was a teacher for 13 years. So I've gotten pretty much everything: walking pneumonia, the flu, bronchitis. So this was stronger. I was sick for about 23 days. Nothing terrible, but just, there was one night when I went to bed and I was just like, okay, God, let me wake up in the morning. Like I felt terrible for 23 days. My mother, though, I've been taking care of my mother at the time. My mother was a survivor of breast and brain cancer, and then dementia started to get worse. She wound up in a wheelchair in 2013, right after, the twins were born and the valley fever, and then my 4-year-old at the time got sick and we almost lost him. It just,
Oh my
2013 was a tough
God.
year. Yeah. He had strep pneumonia that developed outside the lung and collapsed his lung. And then the other lung was like on a quarter. And the night that we brought him in, the ER nurse was like, if you did not bring him in tonight, he would not have made it through the night. And they did a
Terrifying.
rush to do surgery early that morning, like 5, 6 a.m. I'm signing papers, and they did surgery. I mean, yeah, we were in the children's ICU, the PICU, for 23, 24 days. It was wild. So
That's
anyway,
terrifying.
Mom wound up going to the hospital, and it was interesting. They asked us, does she have issues with the heart? And I was like, no. She got on the ventilator for 2 days, quickly healed, got off, this and that, came home. But then we realized as all the news and the shutdown came in March, oh my God, we had COVID early on. And that's what it was with my mom. So fast forward, getting better, we're doing good, during the pandemic. First time ever in my life I started to do yoga. And we're doing family yoga. And we were very serious about it. We were on lockdown, mask, the whole thing because of my mother. You know what I mean?
Yes, I
And
do.
just being safe. So the kids, even when children started to go back in 2021, we kept them at home for homeschooling just because we were super cautious.
Yeah.
And anyway, Delta winds up coming through the house. The twins, it was their birthday. We had like an innocent little party, but it turned out to be, oof. So, August 27th, my mother goes to the hospital. Her oxygen got down to about 87. We were, and I knew that the COVID, this Delta was just, it was strong. I went in the hospital August 29th, but Kristen, what's really wild, show you the COVID fog of the brain. My wife, her oxygen was like 92, 93. So when I'm looking at the meter, mine was in the 70s and 60s, but we just thought something was wrong with it.
Yeah, because how could you be functioning?
Yeah, yeah. And so on August, now I should have went in with my mother on August 27th,
Yeah.
but August 29th, we called because I was like, yeah, I don't feel good. And when they came, this is no exaggeration, no lie, my oxygen was at 56. And they said to me, Mr. Taylor, how are you talking and standing? And I was like, I don't know. And I'm thinking in my head, like, I'm thinking about the movie, Strong Like Bull, you know? I'm like, that's still, I was like, Strong Like Bull, I don't know. But
Oh my God.
so what's really wild, as they were putting me in the ambulance, they wouldn't come in the house, anything. My boys are crying. My wife is like really, emotional. And I said, hey, daddy's going to be okay. And this is August 29th, mind you. My birthday is coming up in a few weeks in September. And I said to them, I said, don't worry, daddy's going to be okay. And I don't know why I said this. I said, I'll see you in October. And my wife was like, no. And they closed the doors. And okay, so fast forward, I get to the hospital. They wheel me down. I'm down the hall from my mother. And it wasn't the heart of the pandemic, so it wasn't overcrowded.
Okay.
But we were in this wing or whatever, and I go see my mom. I give her a kiss. She's looking at me like, what the hell's going on? But she was kind of, whispering, not super verbal, but I knew, I told them what she needed and da 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 and take care of her. But she wasn't on a vent or anything. She was doing pretty decent, like doing better than me. And, so I got sicker and sicker. But when I got to the hospital, I immediately told them about the valley fever. And valley fever, you cannot have steroids. They don't play well together. But I got verbally assaulted in the ER room. I won't get into that. It was really inappropriate and unprofessional. Then they gave me steroids, even though I told them I couldn't have it because of their protocols.
Yeah.
So I got sicker and sicker each day. They denied me of the monoclonal antibodies. Come to find out later, after I woke up, my neighbor, who became a good friend, they induced the coma for him, a Yugoslavian gentleman, sweetheart of a man from New Jersey. They watched me get sicker and sicker. They never offered to induce a coma to let me rest and get better. I fell into a coma September 6th after doing my fantasy football draft, the 5th and the 6th, which my wife could have killed me for. Got off the
Priorities.
phone, my good buddy. I called my wife, and they were doing this thing where they were putting like a mask over my face and head. And they said, Mr. Taylor, this will help you to get out of here and to get better. And it was really cumbersome and it was kind of scary. And the first night I did it, the second time I could do it for 5 minutes. I couldn't take it. But they were like, September 6th, they're like, Mr. Taylor, you need to do this again. This will help you, and da-da-da. So I called my wife. I said, babe, I'm zapped out. I'm tired. And I put this mask on. I'm going to bed, whatever. Okay, 11 p.m. My wife gets a call from the hospital. No exaggeration. This is the call. It's like insane. Mrs. Taylor, they're like panting. Your husband's organs are failing. Death is imminent. We'll call you back in about an hour. Click. That's the call my wife got.
Oh my God.
They called her back in an hour. They didn't tell her if I coded or anything. They said I was on the ventilator and I wasn't, this is September 6th. my wife was not able to come, I think, until the 20th to see me.
Oh, God.
So I was in a coma, and I can tell you what was so fascinating to me. There was never a moment of darkness. I went and traveled to different dimensions. I definitely went through, I guess, what I now seem to understand and know as the dark night of the soul. I was battling Satan. I went through spiritual warfare. During my coma stint, it just felt like my wife was turning on me. Not in real life. She was like great in real life, but felt like she was trying to kill me. I thought she was like cheating on me. Had like a boyfriend and this and that and all this stuff. And I astral traveled to my house, and when I got sorry, let me rewind back. When I was in a coma, while in a coma, I was killed, or I should say, I died 3 times. After the second time, I was shot outside of my home in my garage, and it was weird. I got shot and I could feel the bullets, like the warmth, all of it. But because that was the second time I died, I wasn't afraid because I came back after the first time. But it was like I had an opportunity, and I guess this is when I astral traveled, to see my then 12-year-old, now 14 years old, see him 5 years into the future. And I didn't want to do that. So then I went to the sofa in my living room in my home. And I saw my wife and her business associate and friend. They were, she was transitioning out of her business, and they were working on some numbers and stuff. And I remember this spirit who to me was really evil because it was like my wife's younger boyfriend. I'm like, who the hell? This guy's the devil. You know what I mean? It was crazy. But when I was on the sofa, I couldn't move, but I saw one of my twin sons. And what's fascinating is that my wife and her business partner or friend, they were in, you remember the 90s VHS technology. But my twin son, who's really spiritual, he was like in 4K color, the technology of today. He comes over to me, gives me a hug, and then just kind of walks off. And, I continue to watch my wife and the boyfriends to the side, and he's like talking to me. My wife can't hear me. I'm trying to talk to her, get her attention. And I'm just kind of like bugging, like I'm angry, I'm frustrated, but I'm in my house and it's just like all this stuff. And kind of fast forward, you better believe the first thing when I woke up out of a coma and talking through the vent before I got my speech voice and before they put me on the trach, the first thing, my wife was like, stop, don't talk. But when I woke up, number one, she was there when I woke up for good. And I was angry at her because she, was trying to kill me and cheating on me, and she didn't understand. And I'm just like, what are you doing here? Like I was.
Your poor wife is like, I have been praying for you. And
oh my God. Okay. I'm going to just take you through it because she was insanely amazing. She so anyway, the first thing I asked her was, and I said her name. I don't want to say her name, but I was like, is she, was she at the house with you? Did anybody come to the house? And she was like, at first she was like, no. And then she was like, oh yeah, so-and-so came over with the kids and the boys, they were all in the pool. And so-and-so came. And I was like, was she there? And she was like, yeah. And I said, I saw you. She's like, what are you talking about? She goes, I saw her. I came to the house. I astral traveled to the house and I saw my son. I saw you and her talking. And then she said, she was like, oh, referring to my son, she was like, he said he saw you and he said that daddy's going to be home and he's going to be okay. So my son saw me and I saw him. So it wasn't just that I astral traveled. He saw me as well.
I just got chills. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, it was insane. And this kid, he's healed like a bird before that flew into the window. He's just got spiritual gifts.
Yeah.
And so what was wild is while I was in a coma, my wife got a recording that one of my buddies had put together for her, but it was from all my friends and family to celebrate my birthday. Everyone was wishing me happy birthday. And I guess they played it because she couldn't come physically in person. They played it over the phone for my birthday. And on the other side, in the coma world, this was one of the positive experiences. I had the best birthday ever in a coma. It was like a banquet, a black tie affair, and everyone from every walk of life was there. Elementary school, middle school, junior high school, college friends from both colleges, like friends from acting, like adults, friends, coworkers from teaching, cousins. Anybody that I ever knew. It seemed like there was like 200 people there. I guess this was the party that I've always dreamed of, right?
No kidding. No kidding. Can
And
I slow you down really
yeah,
quickly?
go ahead.
So you said something that confused me. You
Okay.
started and said, I went into a coma, there was no darkness. And then you paused and said something as you expound on all of this. It was like the dark night of the soul and demons and all of these tortured experiences of betrayal. When you
Yeah.
said there was no darkness, what do you mean by that? What did that?
Well, I think from me, I knew nothing of a near-death experience and this kind of world and what people go through. I mean, obviously, I know that, people have been in a coma and come out of it and survived. And sometimes people are like, oh, I didn't see anything. It was pitch black, or I saw
That's
the
what I thought you
light, or I
said.
saw Jesus, or, whatever the stories is. So for me, it was like mini vignettes in movies.
So it wasn't just blackness or
Right. I never saw
blankness.
any darkness. I just went to another world, another reality.
Yeah, got it.
So the last thing that I remembered was the phone conversation with my wife and then putting on that mask with me. And then from there, it just like the next thing I knew, I don't know. I mean, there was no duration of time that I could measure. I was in literally other dimensions. So I remember going to California and was getting on a spaceship to go to Mars. I went with one of my sons to London, England. I was gonna do a potential surgery to improve my vision. I was born with an eye disease. I went to I came to my house and astral traveled, but I was also just having these mini scenes in the hospital. I
Yeah.
dreamt that like my wife was at the hospital so much that she started to work there.
Well, you used the word dreamt. Qualitatively, did it feel like a dream or did it feel really present and more detailed than a dream? What was the distinction
Yeah, I
within?
know. It's such a hard, language can't even really describe what I experienced. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so, no, it wasn't a dream. It was just life. It was my existence for 40
Mm-hmm.
days. And this is the fascinating thing. At some point, they started to strip away the medicine and told my wife that I would awaken. You know what I mean? That all the medicine and the sedation. And so I left the hospital by my house in Scottsdale, I think October 10th. So they started to strip away the medicine like around the September 30th or the 1st. There was no movement. So when my wife, then they did the birthday song, and then another time they played some music over the phone. I'm an MC, a native New Yorker. I love hip hop, so they played like some Tribe Called Quest and Public Enemy and De La Soul and groups that I like, and they were playing music, and I actually started to dance while I was in a coma. And
So
the
good.
wife and the kids, they were on FaceTime, and they were like, "Oh my God, look at Daddy!" And then
Yes.
the nurse had to stop it. And my wife was like, what's wrong? She was like, no, his blood pressure is getting really high. And they were
Oh.
like, oh my God, did we hurt him? They're like, no, no, no,
Oh
no.
gosh.
Mrs. Taylor, it's okay. This lets us know that he's alive and
He's
present.
in there.
He's there.
Yeah.
And so they were like, it's just his numbers, like I guess my heart rate and blood pressure was going crazy. So there was a time period though when they stripped away the medicine. I was totally like lifeless. And my wife, they ordered a CAT scan in my brain to see, am I there?
Yeah, is there neural activity?
The brain was functioning normally. And a few more days had passed, and this is probably, maybe October 3rd, 4th. I'm guessing. My wife doesn't remember the exact dates. But before I got transferred, they had taken off every medicine. No more sedation. Nothing. I was still like, they told her, they're like, he's going to wake up. Nothing. So then they ordered the MRI of my brain because even they were getting concerned.
Yeah.
And they had to deal with the insurance and this and that, but they were like, no, he's got to have this. We don't know if he's brain dead.
Oh, God.
That came back and I was fine. And I told my wife, I was like, no, I was sitting there I was battling Satan. I was going
You were
through.
busy.
Oh my gosh. I was
So
so busy.
you were so busy. So everyone has such extraordinary near-death experiences, none of them identical. And what I read and hear with my interviews and the ones that I watch and listen to,
Right.
everyone receives what they need to receive, is what I hear.
Yes.
I'm seeing the nodding. Why do you think that was your experience in terms of your own spiritual evolution or just your own place as a spirit?
Well, now that it's been about 2.5 years since this experience, I have come to understand and realize that there's no victimhood in astrology, spirituality. In my mind, I've never been a victim, all that I've gone through my life, that I signed up for this. I chose this. Now, you could say, was it to spiritually evolve and to grow? Did I need to go through this to be separated from my mother so she could pass on while I was asleep in a coma from September 6th to October 13th? My mother died on September 21st, 2021.
So sorry.
And like I said, I took care of her over 20 years. And my wife waited for me to get a little stronger. She probably told me maybe October 20th or so. Because when I woke up, I swear to you, I just knew my mom was alive and well. Because when I left her, she was doing better than me. You know what I mean? Like, there was no reason. There was no reason, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was, and mind you, my wife had the hospital chaplain come in the room. And in my head, all that I went through in a coma, I'm thinking my wife is coming to tell me that she wants a divorce.
Poor guys.
I was blindsided. I mean, I had no
Yeah.
idea. And when she told me and he was there and she said, babe, while you were sleeping, mother, and it was like, I remember being in my hospital bed and it was like someone, I was still extremely weak,
Right.
but it was like someone took a brick and like punched me in the heart and the face at the same time.
Oh, I'm so
I was
sorry.
crushed,
Yeah.
and, but I understand now, even though probably 2018, I told my mom one day, I said, Ma, if you're ready to go, me and my wife, I was like, me and the boys and, my wife, Alana, we're good. I was like, you can go, And, the dementia was getting worse and worse. And she got to a point where she could no longer swallow food,
Oh, yeah.
Like she almost died a few times. I actually saved her life on Inauguration Day, January 20th, 2020. She choked on meatloaf, and I like got her out of the wheelchair, did the Heimlich and all this stuff, and we called 911, and they were like, do mouth to mouth, and intuitively I knew, no, it's not time for mouth to mouth. I've got to like pry her mouth open, do the Heimlich, and get the air passage so she could breathe and scoop out some of that
The
meatloaf.
food, yeah.
And that's what I did, and I literally saved her life. And then like by the time I got it open and like got her breathing, then EMS like came through the door and they were like, oh, good job, you did good. And then they, stabilized her and this and that. I mean, I went through, so much, but, I've come to understand now that this was a process to increase my spiritual gifts.
Yeah.
I've always had deep water faith. I became a born again Christian in 1999. I've always had a great relationship with God. I love Jesus. Even now, as a professional astrologer, some people think, oh, there's that. Like, no, it's not a sin. Astrology is
Mhm.
older than all the religions. It's in the Bible, Torah, and the Quran, if
Oh,
you
wow. I
read
didn't
it
know
in
that.
the
Okay.
codes.
Because, yeah,
But,
I know many people. I have a friend who's an astrologer. Sorry to interrupt. She married someone who doesn't believe in that, so she has to do it in hiding because he's
oh,
Christian.
wow.
Yeah.
And that breaks my heart. And
Breaks
and
mine too.
so we'll talk about that some more. But that's one thing that I've noticed and realized is that since I've awakened and the rehab and all that I went through was like insane and tremendous,
Mm.
I I can hear binary code through the internet and the Wi-Fi. When I do my chart readings, I can see some of your planetary alignments in the birth chart, and I'll get visions of like you playing out that energy and action in real life. I have always seen in my dreams, before I work with a client, I would see their birth chart like, and like not on the ceiling, but like with my eyes closed in the spiritual realm.
Yeah.
And I think the greatest thing that came out of it, no more fear. I
Mm.
fear nothing. I don't fear death. I know, there was a time where I was, while in a coma, I was trapped kind of in this dungeon somewhere in Phoenix. And I was a Latina woman trying to steal like my identity and my credit card and all, and my debit card and all that stuff. And there were these torches, this like, like flames and fire. And I was sitting like on this, not, it was like a chair or bench, but it was like a white light underneath me. And I wasn't tied up, but I could not get out of there. I could not leave. And I just started calling. I said, God, Jesus, Mom. I said my wife's name and my four boys. And I just kept repeating it, God, Jesus, Mom, my wife, and then, the four boys. And then I just like got away or got out of it. So I tell people all the time,
Chills.
I called on Jesus.
Yeah.
That worked for me.
Yeah.
Whatever works for you. I don't ever judge another human being. That's not my place. I
Yeah.
think I've matured so much spiritually, and I've understand that here on Earth School, we all have our walk. People are going from the 3D to the 5D. The solar flares, you could see it on the website of NASA, are at the highest they've ever been in recorded history, affecting our planet. It's affecting Gaia and Earth and changing our DNA as well. And I've come to realize that, where you or myself, we could be in ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th grade here on Earth School. And there's some people who are really stuck in the matrix and cognitive dissonance, and they may be in kindergarten or first or second grade, and they believe everything from the television, the media, all the programming in their subconscious mind, and they're living on that program.
Yes.
And that's just not where I'm at. And that's okay. And everyone has to walk their walk.
That's right. That's right. And I love that it's not about proselytizing, but recognizing that everyone is on their walk for a
Yeah.
reason
Yeah.
and an important reason, which can be hard, but it's also what I've worked to focus on is the loving energy,
That's it.
right? I can focus on being so bitter and resentful and hateful, but trying to recognize the two energies of love versus fear, these polarities, right?
Yeah.
Why I want to move into astrology, like I was saying before we started recording, but in terms of your journey and what I'm hearing, tell me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing is all of these trials against forces of darkness were part of a spiritual path that you needed to face karmically or just in terms of your soul's development or the contract that you signed up for. How did the moving through darkness serve your soul? What were some of the lessons that were important?
Well, I am a Virgo sun, a Scorpio rising, and a Capricorn moon. And to give you and your audience a little insight, when you have the Scorpio rising, Scorpio is a fixed water sign. And when you have it on the ascendant, and I have some other planets there as well, Scorpio sun, moon, or risings, that is an indicator that you've come into this life to break generational curses, to evolve your soul, but to go through, they call it a gift and a curse, a gift from the ancestors, right? The curse is the transformation. You can go through a lot of death and rebirths, a lot of hard times, a lot of transformation, a lot of pain and suffering in this incarnation, this earthly experience. And one of the gifts is that the ancestors and God or spirit guides or angels are always watching over you. Because you have Sagittarius in your second house. The second house is the family values, savings, assets. But it's also how you earn money, your food, speech, and five senses. And when you have Sagittarius there, which is ruled by Jupiter, in astrology, that is the great benefic. Jupiter energy is about abundance, fortune, luck, wisdom, beliefs, and philosophies. It's very expansive. And so having that in your second house, Scorpio risings, no matter what you go through, all the changes, the pain, the heartache, you will never go broke and homeless. And, you will have this optimistic nature about you. And for me, that's been my case. So to kind of connect that thought, my father was murdered when I was 6 years old.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, he was shot and killed. And you can see it in my birth chart, not in my mother's, not in my sister's, only in mine. You can see the actual story of my father's murder in my natal birth chart. Wow. And when I was learning that in my astrology course with my astrology teacher, you could hear a pin drop. There was, not so many, but 8 or 10 or 12 students all across the world. And everybody gasped, and I was like, it's okay, guys. My astrology teacher, she was amazing. She was a Virgo like me. And but she explained it. And then it kind of blew me away. And of course, that you can't make that up. That's my life experience, right?
Yeah.
And to see that in my chart, and then also connecting this, my mother was shot the next year. The head left for dead. And she didn't die. She got up with her brains oozing out of her head, drove in her car in Harlem, 9 blocks, and they wound up saving her life. But my sister and I were brought to the hospital because they did not know if she was going to make it. And that caused a real trauma for me. I remember that. And it was very scary because I remember thinking, wow, I'm 7. Before my 8th birthday, because it was in the summertime and I'm born in September, before my 8th birthday. So I remember thinking, I'm not going to have any parents. Both my parents were shot. It was just
devastating.
And so I think this experience, I know this experience, one, took away those fears, took away the fear of death, but it also made me understand that and I've always known this, but that my Father is always with me. God, the Father's always with me, but that I've got a spirit team and angels that are here to watch over me, protect me. And that, I think, when I awakened, I had in the hospital, the nurses were kind of blown away once I woke up for good on October 16th. Real quick, October 13th, I woke up at night. The hospital at night, Kristin, is not a nice place. When your family's that there and this and that. Yeah. So they didn't turn on the light. And I just remember to the right, I was in a bed, and to the right, I could see the light in the hallway. They came in and I was so weak, and I must have been, the sweat was dripping down. I still had my locks. They were shorter then, but I was trying to reach up to wipe the sweat, off your brow. And they thought that I was trying to pull out my ventilator.
Right.
And in my head, I was like, oh my God, you idiots, just look at me. I'm sweating. I'm hot.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
they, you know what they did? They put restraints on me.
Oh God.
And I mean, and it was so tight. Number one, it actually hurt. But number two, you could imagine. I mean, this is my first time waking up. I did not know what was going on or what happened. I'm dealing with this medicine, and they come, and I'm thinking they're going to come and help me.
Yeah.
And they put restraints on me. I was so sad, angry, upset, frustrated. I just went back to coma land.
Yeah, well, that's torturous. That's a
Yeah.
form of torture.
That's how it felt. And I think
Yeah.
from the 13th to the 16th, there may have been another time. And then I want to share this with the audience because this is really interesting. Because hospitals, nobody follows people after these experiences to measure your healing process, what you remember, what you go through. My physical therapist, she was the one that really monitored me and a bunch of COVID patients because she was doing the
Aftercare.
outpatient. She was a pulmonary physical therapist specialist. And she had mentioned, Eric, you're like a rock star. You're one of the best patients I've had in terms of how you've healed, you know? And I was also the one who was in a coma the longest time. She had some people 3 days, 5 days, some people never a coma, some people, whatever. But I mean, people don't think about it. And even for me, it's hard to fathom. But like, I understand because I've realized as I awakened, unfortunately, I've lost a lot of friends and family for different reasons that just cut me out of their lives over the silliness of COVID. But I've also realized a lot of people, they gave up on me. They didn't think they wrote me off. They thought I was dead. They didn't think I was going to make it. And the funny thing is, Kristin, I'm a big sports guy. I had a sports radio show. I grew up, New Yorker. When I was a Yankees, Knicks, and a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and I like the Jets. But I always would talk about deep, hashtag deep water faith. But it's like, I want to, it's like part of me wants to like shake people that like know me and knew me and even friends and family. Besides my wife and kids, they never gave up on me. But it's like, do you understand who I am? That since I was 6 years old, I felt responsible for my mother and my sister. And I was determined to live. Like, your father gets murdered. He was age 45. So for me, once I got past the age of 45, that was that hurdle that I had to get over in life.
Yeah.
Once I got over age 45, and I'm 53 now, I was like, and I said this when I was 6, I said it, I'm here for 3 digits. I'm not going anywhere. My will to live is unmeasurable.
Wow.
And I've always walked with that strength and that faith and knowing. And so, that's another thing that this experience showed me that like, it does matter what you desire, what you want.
Yeah.
Do you want to live?
Yeah.
And
That
the answer
will.
is a big yes for me. So
Yes. Yes. And
it's
that speaks so much to what you're talking about in terms of your birth chart and understanding astrology, which is where I want to take this because it's so fascinating. But also this idea around will, right? This power of your will that is baked into your birth chart and into the story that unfolded. But for everyone listening, that their thoughts and their beliefs and the energy they hold as they, come face to face with whatever adversity is shaped like for them, that matters tremendously.
It does. And the will is seen by the planet Mars. The sun, moon, and rising sign, also known as the ascendant, and that's set by your birth time, which is why astrologers always need to know your time, because that sets up the 12th house zodiac wheel. The rising sign is your physical appearance, the only house of self, the I am energy, when you're born from the mother, right? Your outer mask. The sun, that's you and your father, your vitality, your creativity, your ego, your authority. And the moon is your emotions, your intuition, body health, your mother. An indicator potentially, and a lot of astrologers feel this way, that the moon sign is an indicator of what sun sign you were in a past life. But that
Oh,
Mars,
really?
that Mars, that's your action, your energy, your drive, your willpower. For
Mm-hmm.
men, it's actually your sex drive. It's also in the chart property, land. Mars cuts and separates and divides. It's blood, surgeries,
I hear
procedures.
war too. It's like the
It
warring
is
planet.
the assertive,
Battle.
aggressive, initiating. It's the soldier, the warrior, the general. But it's how you go and attack life, how you go and
Mm.
get the big piece of chicken, you know, how you go make the money. And so for me, Mars is definitely a powerful energy. And my will was always very mental. My Mars is in Virgo. But what I love about astrology, and I tell my clients this chart, there's no victimhood. You chose this chart. This is the
Yeah.
map of your life.
Yeah.
And so as you learn the chart, you'll find, and I find working with some clients, they are literally walking in their chart, like they're walking on their destined path, which you can see, through planets and the North Node and different things. But you can also see where you just need to make little minor adjustments. Maybe you got
Mm.
caught up in a 9 to 5 that's not part of your real purpose for your career, or maybe you're burnt out. You've been a lawyer or an accountant for 25 years and you're like, this doesn't feed my soul. What am
Yeah.
I really supposed to do? I work with people with mini career charts, relationship charts, full natal birth chart readings. And one service that I do that I'm really proud of, that I just love working with people, especially since the pandemic, what's happening? A lot of people realizing, you know what? I don't want that anymore. I want to create my own path. So I do help people, if they are ready for this, to start their own business. I do business birth charts.
Mm.
And you can cast a chart for any event, right? It's like electional astrology. But a business birth chart, like if you knew the time of your first sale or when you filed for your S Corp or your LLC, or if you want to start a new business, I can help you cast a
Mm.
birth chart at the time where it's most optimum for the type of business that you actually want to do.
That's so cool. That's so
And this
cool.
is, just so you know, this is what the elites do. The presidents, the CEOs, Ronald Reagan used to use
Well, his
astrology.
wife,
Yeah, his wife,
yeah, his
Nancy
wife
Reagan.
did. Nancy was big time into astrology.
Did you know that they used astrology to find the best time for her breast cancer surgery? They used astrology for when he would have meetings with Mikhail Gorbachev, right? When we were dealing
Wow.
with, Russia and all that stuff. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
it is. Yeah. Former Soviet Union. You and I are the same age, so
Yeah,
I
that's
remember
right.
that
Remember
well.
those days.
I remember those days super well. This is really so, it just makes me so incredibly curious. Tell me, because here we are, we've gone through COVID.
Yeah.
And it has its individual impact, as we see clearly in your story. And we also have the collective impact, which is still unfolding. And now here we are in a year of, in terms of numerology, 8,
Yes.
2024. Astrologically speaking, what is the energy of this year that you would like to share with us?
This is one for the ages. One thing that people don't understand with the Universal 8 year, you can hear 30,000 different people tell you, oh, this is the year, make that money, get the power, make the money. And that's true. The 8 is infinity,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also as above, so down below, so as within, so without. It's a year of instant karma. So, yes, this is a year where we can have great transformation. We can increase our power. It's also a psychological year. It is definitely a year of abundance and finances, but it can be extremes. It can be extreme wealth, but it could also be extreme poverty. So it's not like it's a automatic, I'm going to make the money based on numerology. You also need to look at your individual birth chart because you could look at Chinese astrology and it's a dragon year. So if you are, a certain age, born in 1970 or 82 or 94, it's your enemy year, the year of the dog.
Really?
So if you're a dog year, it's a year where you've got to kind of lay low, just work hard and just kind of, be mindful there could be some challenges. But The big things of this year, we're dealing with the nodal axis. The Aries North Node goes to January 11, 2025, and the Libra South Node. So it's that kind of the I versus the we. The Aries North Node is asking the collective to initiate, assert yourself, be brave and courageous, right? To take charge of your life. And the Libra South Node is asking us that we've got to find relationships, friendships, business partnerships, and marriages that are truly for our highest and greatest good, bringing us peace, harmony, seeking balance, justice, and fairness. And if it is not in those areas, then it may not be for you, and it may be the time to purge, surrender, cut it off, release it. No energy vampires. We have Saturn in Pisces with Neptune till 2026. Spiritual discipline. That's on the agenda. You have got to make sure you are doing some sort of spiritual practice, prayer, meditation, mindfulness, quiet time, yoga, breath work, grounding, earthing, whatever you do,
Yes.
at least 15 to 30 minutes a day, and every single day, spiritual discipline. Healthy boundaries. Saturn is about boundaries. Pisces, no boundaries. So you cannot allow energy vampires in your life. You must have healthy boundaries and practice compassion and empathy for what? You first,
Yes.
right? Just like an airplane, put on your mask first.
That's right.
Compassion and empathy for others after you take care of yourself, increasing the self-love. But, the big one everyone's talking about, Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto went into Aquarius on January 20th. It'll be there until September 1st, late night, I believe. And then will retrograde back to the anaretic 29th degree in Capricorn from September 1st to November 19th. So that means during the USA elections, Pluto in Capricorn, the 29th degree, which could lead to no election, complete utter chaos. Just anything's on the table for that.
So stay there if you would.
Okay.
So when it's in that position, I'm hearing you say what it could lead to. What is the energy of that position?
Well, Pluto in Capricorn came in at '08 when we had the market crash, the whole real estate bubble and all that drama. And what Pluto in Capricorn is about is Pluto is Hades, the underworld, transformation, transmutation, digging up the secrets and the lies, the underbelly of what Capricorn represents: the government, the structures, the systems.
That's right.
And that's what's played out since '08 to 2024, right? We've had Me Too. We've had the veils of the medical system, the financial system, the government, right? That whole experience with Trump and seeing just all the illusions that we've been caught up in, thinking that our government is here to serve the people and yada, yada, yada. No. Pluto brings up the secrets, the lies, the deception. That Me Too stuff, well, I was a professional actor. I knew about it for years. When I told people about these things in the mid to late 90s, early 2000s, everyone was like, oh, they called me a conspiracy theorist. And then when things came out around the Me Too, people don't ever want to take back and give you credit. But people were kind of like, oh, yeah, Eric did say, you know what I mean? Because they know the truth. They didn't want to give me props for it. But, and it's okay. But the reality is Pluto is about purifying things, and it's very psychological. And so it's your soul psychology. How do you evolve past the pain, trauma, and crises from childhood, but from past lives as well? And for the 29th degree, anything's on the table. So when I say we may not have an election, it could be because the internet gets turned off. We're in World War III, and these are things that may have sounded crazy if I told you this years ago. But right now in 2024, as we're speaking, we're kind of already experiencing and seeing all these things. Just think of it's calmed down quite a little bit, but the first 17 days of January, oh my goodness, it was insane. You know what I mean? But I remember by January 17th or 18th, I was breathing and I was just like,
Yeah, of 2020. Yeah.
From earthquakes to this to the power grids to that these movies and dystopian society, like, I mean, it's been insane. And so
Hmm.
Pluto, Capricorn, 29th degree, more structures and systems will actually crumble and fail.
Oh, that's upsetting to hear. But it's
But
for a purpose, and I
it's,
wanted to really say
yes,
that. I mean, that it needs to
it's
happen. It's
for
going to
our
be,
greatest good.
yes, it's for our greatest good, and truths will be revealed.
Yeah.
And boy, if that isn't in short supply, and that is really the battle cry for the truth of justice and injustice to be revealed.
Well, and it's funny that you say that, because with Pluto and Aquarius, what will be revealed in Pluto Aquarius, so in Capricorn, it was from the power to the structures and systems over the people. Pluto Aquarius, different from Pluto and Capricorn, is the
Yeah.
power to the people.
Yes.
And
Yes.
this will show the social injustice,
Mm-hmm.
reform, the secrets of the dark web and AI, the secrets and things that need to be revealed about science and technology, innovation, the secrets about these so-called charity organizations who have been taking money and not giving it to the people,
Yeah.
whether it's Red Cross or this one or that one, or
Mm-hmm.
what I mean, environmental stuff. So get ready from 2024 to 2044. I mean, we're not going to recognize this world, the technology. And just to kind of tie this together, I saw technological advances when I was in a coma.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that I saw was the apps were floating outside of the computer screen,
Like a
and
hologram.
you tapped on them like a hologram, like there was no
Yes.
mouse.
Yes. I
And
keep hearing that.
I also saw, um, it, we didn't have cell phones. It was almost like a credit card in your hand, not a chip. I have to be very clear because I mentioned this on a podcast and people were like writing in the comments, is he talking about a chip? I'm like, no, no, no.
Not a chip.
No, don't take a chip. I don't believe in chips. No mark of the beast stuff. Okay. Okay. I want to be clear. But it was like a credit card that you unfold. And that was like the phone. But I also saw walking into your home and be like, call Kristin. And I
Yeah.
would just be walking, and then like on the wall, like, boom, Kristin, you would pop up, and then we
Yes.
would talk. Sort of like, do you remember the movie Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
like that.
What's
So,
interesting, yeah.
a lot of things are coming, and some won't be so good, and then some will be very good. But you mentioned numerology, and just so people understand, you know, there's a thing called human design, and it is a mixture of quantum physics and the I Ching and astrology. And it reads your auric field and your energy. And so there's a profile, with two numbers, 1 through 6 and 1 through 6. And the human design prophecy is that in 2027, the collective will leave the solar plexus and go to their heart chakra. And we just have to get through this time that's going to be very challenging, 24, 25, and 26. But I know in my heart of hearts, and one thing about the age of Aquarius and Pluto in Aquarius, the greatest currency and the greatest vibrations and frequencies are the trine, and not the trine of like some secret society and Illuminati, but the trine like in astrology, 120 degrees, but a triangle, it is love, gratitude, and being your authentic self. And that's what Aquarius is about. Aquarius
Yeah.
is a fixed air sign, the water bear, pouring out the wisdom and knowledge that it learned from Sagittarius season.
Yeah. Well, what's so fascinating about that? It was, you said it's in so much more detail and you're just so much more educated, which is why I wanted you here. But I was thinking the same thing. What I was thinking as I was listening to you is, yes, it's going to be so important to get through this time, whether it's just a 2027 or the next 50 years, really, is what I hear is going to be so transformative to humanity and to the earth. But it's really in hearing things that can feel dark and scary and doomsday-y it's also really important the individual responsibility we bear in whatever unfolds. So this idea that we should be meditating or have some sort of 30-minute spiritual practice that we are disciplined and committed to, that shifts our frequency and our contribution to what unfolds. And when you talk about the triangle, if you look geometrically, the triangle is the most stable shape. Yes. It is the most stable shape. And so again, I'm hearing you say on one side is love, and the other side is what again?
Gratitude.
Gratitude, and then it's authenticity.
Yes.
Love, gratitude, and authenticity. So in our prayers, if that could be part of it, collectively, the shift in energy, because everything is energy. If we are so intentional in how we show up for ourselves and others, I can't imagine that that wouldn't contribute in a positive way.
It's going to be beautiful, but I think there's a great responsibility.
Yes.
And that's something that I learned coming out of a coma and my journey and process of healing. I felt such a burning fire to get back to work, to get back to the people, to the collective, to my wife, to my boys, to my home. And my wife would tell you, like, I got home with no oxygen, and it was a miracle. I was on the walker for maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks, and got off of it. And I remember the first video I did, it was, I think I was finishing my Venus Through the Houses series. And you could see it on my playlist, on my YouTube channel, Big E Astrology. I could barely breathe. And I was doing, this is Venus in the 6th house, and I'm back. And you know what I mean? But I had to get back. And it is amazing the vibrate, because like you said, everything is energy, vibration, and frequencies. And there's a lot that we feel right now with all the negative stuff that's going on in the world. And we can't put our boots down on the ground to help, but we can help spiritually and energetically. And you said it, we have to vibrate from our hearts and send that love.
Yes. And move, gosh, God, I can't believe we're basically at time, but the solar plexus, in terms of chakra, that's like our personal power.
Yes.
But moving away from this sense of, I know the corruption is so much about greed. And if we can move to love from greed,
yes,
that's a beautiful aspiration. Okay, we are at time. This was phenomenal. You are phenomenal. How do people reach you should they want to work with you? Or just watch your YouTube channel, everything.
Yeah.
Share.
My beautiful new website is finally up and running, bigeastrology.com, right? BIGE astrology.com. You can email me directly at bigeastrology@gmail.com, especially if you want to take advantage of sales like my Aquarius birth chart sale, which goes to February 18th, or my monthly astrology meeting, Astrological Coffee Talk. Say it as a New Yorker. Coffee Talk with Eric. And I teach an astrology lesson once a month. And coming up in February, I am very excited. It'll be the start of my 3rd year. And it's a safe space where people can talk about astrology and spirituality, learn astrology, and make friends. You're not crazy. You're not alone. So come and hang out with me. But yeah, I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Big E Astrology. And I appreciate when people subscribe and follow. But reach out to me. You have questions. I can help you with every aspect of life, healing your inner child, reprogramming your subconscious mind, and just making you really understand that you are worthy, and it is no longer your job to engage in negative self-talk. Hand in the pink slip and retire today. You got to be positive about yourself. I'm all about the self-love with my relationship coaching and my astrological life coaching programs.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you. This was a pleasure, Kristin.
How I Made It Through is produced and distributed by EIQ Media, LLC. Elevate your emotional IQ with podcasts and content focused on overcoming adversity, leadership, mental health, entrepreneurship, spiritually transformative experiences, and more.